Blinding wheels spin through a sky split by thunder. Eyes gleam from within the storm. What happens when God's glory rolls out of his own temple? Could a vision from ancient Babylon still shape the future of Iran and your story today? What if prophecy is closer to the headlines than you ever imagined? This is more than history. Tonight, we'll peel back the layers of Ezekiel's wildest visions, secrets few have ever heard. From exile to the river of life, from the ruins of Jerusalem to a hope that never dies. Travel back in time with me. The air is heavy on the banks of the Kibar River. Babylon's banners cast long shadows over weeping exiles. A young priest, robbed of his future, stares into the unknown. Suddenly, the heavens burst open. Lightning, wheels within wheels, voices calling him to stand and speak. To uncover this destiny, we must first return to where it all began. A kingdom falls. A future priest stands homeless by a foreign river. This is Babylon, 593 BC. Judah has lost everything: land, king, even the temple. Elders and craftsmen are marched east, exiles by the canal called Kibar. Dust settles on broken dreams. Songs of Zion fade into the hum of Babylon's markets. Ezekiel, just 30, trained for sacred service, now stripped of his altar and people. His calling feels out of reach, his nation's story shattered. Why did Babylon take the best and brightest? It was strategy. Resettle the leaders, break a nation's will. Families are split. Memory becomes their only homeland. Hope feels heavy. Faith hangs by a thread. Exile wasn't just a change of address, it was trauma in slow motion. Yet even in this foreign land, God is not silent. Sometimes purpose is born in places we least expect. Sometimes hope survives even when home is gone. But the story doesn't stop here. A storm breaks the silence of exile. Clouds tower, lightning cracks, and the wind rises wild. But what Ezekiel sees next will change everything. About God, about worship, about hope. He looks up from the banks of the Kibar Canal, expecting more of the same. The gray sky, the muddy waters, the weight of Babylonian defeat. But suddenly, the heavens split open. Fire glows from the heart of a whirlwind. Out of the light come living creatures, beings so strange no words fully capture them. 4 living beings, each one with 4 faces: human, lion, ox, eagle. They move as one, never turning, always in perfect sync. 4 wings stretch out, 2 covering their bodies, 2 touching their neighbors. Their legs are straight as columns. Their feet shine like polished bronze. Beside each creature, a wheel appears. Not just any wheel, but a wheel inside another wheel, rims sparkling like topaz. Eyes circle the edges, watching, knowing, everywhere at once. And as the creatures move, the wheels move with them, forward, backward, side to side, no turning needed. Wherever the spirit wants to go, the wheels and the creatures go together. Above their heads, a platform, bright and clear, shining like crystal. It stretches across the sky, solid and untouchable. The sound is like rushing water, thunder, the roar of an army on the move. Then, a throne appears above the platform, blue as sapphire, glowing with holy fire. On the throne, a figure. He shines like metal, heated white hot, radiant from the waist up, fire from the waist down, surrounded by a rainbow's glory. Ezekiel's heart pounds. He drops to his knees, face to the ground. He cannot look, cannot speak, cannot move. It is more than light, more than sound. It is glory, the glory of the God of Israel, here in Babylon, outside the ruined temple, on the soil of exile. Why does it matter that God shows up this way? Because in the ancient world, every nation had its own God. gods tied to mountains, rivers, temples, or cities. Lose the land, lose the God. But this vision breaks every rule. Here is Israel's God on wheels, not stuck in Jerusalem, not defeated by Babylonian idols. His throne rolls into foreign territory, as alive in exile as he ever was at home. This is not just a God of one nation or one building. This is the maker of heaven and earth. His glory is never boxed in. His power rolls over borders, over armies, over the limits of human imagination. Ezekiel's vision echoes the ancient prophets. Isaiah saw seraphim in the temple calling, "Holy, holy, holy," Isaiah 6:3. Centuries later, John saw 4 living creatures around the throne in heaven, Revelation 4:6-8. The message is the same. God's holiness is otherworldly. His presence can fall anywhere, anytime, to anyone willing to see. But for Ezekiel, the vision is more than theology. It is terror and awe, shock and surrender all at once. He lies face down, undone by glory, stunned by the voice that calls him, "Son of man, stand up. I have something to say." This is the moment exile changes. Ezekiel realizes God has not abandoned his people. God's glory is not trapped in the past, even in the darkest places. The wheels of hope are still turning. What do we learn staring through Ezekiel's eyes? Sometimes God shows up where we least expect him. His presence can move past our pain, our loss, even our failure. No border, no circumstance, no exile is too far for the glory to reach. A scroll appears in the vision, covered front and back, with words of lament and warning. But God doesn't tell Ezekiel to read it. He tells him to eat it. It's a strange command. "Son of man, eat what I am giving you. Fill your stomach with this scroll," the voice says, Ezekiel 3:1-3. Ezekiel takes the scroll, places it on his tongue. Surprisingly, it tastes sweet, honey in his mouth, though the message is bitter. This is how a prophet is born. He doesn't just deliver God's words, he swallows them, lets them become part of his bones. The truth must sink deep, cut deep, before it can ever be spoken out loud. But it comes with a cost. God warns Ezekiel, "You're being sent to a stubborn, hard-hearted people. Their eyes will glare, their ears will close. You will be as alone as a watchman in the night, awake while the city sleeps, listening for trouble, ready to sound the alarm." Yet God promises something strange and strong. "I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint. Do not be afraid." Ezekiel 3:8-9. In other words, to carry truth, you must learn to be unbreakable. Ezekiel's calling is lonely. He is not called to persuade, only to proclaim. He is not called to win, only to warn. Some messages are heavy, but silence is even heavier. Centuries later, in this same land, ancient Babylon now ruled by Persia, another drama unfolds. A king named Cyrus rises, not an Israelite, not a priest, not a prophet, yet he becomes God's unlikely instrument. The year is 538 BC. Cyrus issues a decree. Jewish exiles may go home. They can rebuild their temple in Jerusalem. The empire's policy flips overnight, from keeping captives to sending them home. Why does this matter? The Bible calls Cyrus my shepherd, and he will accomplish all that I please. Isaiah 44:28, Isaiah 45:1. God names a pagan king his servant, decades before Cyrus is even born. A Persian emperor, whose empire stretches from Iran to Egypt, becomes the key to Israel's hope. For exiles and prophets alike, this is a lesson that shakes the ground. God can use anyone, inside or outside our tribe, our nation, even our faith. He shapes history through people who may not even know his name. The fulfillment of Ezekiel's hard calling, the restoration, the hope, comes from the hands of a foreign king. It's a strategic move in world history. Most empires conquer by dividing and keeping the conquered close. Cyrus does the opposite. He sends people back to their homelands, lets them pray to their own gods, and wins loyalty not through fear, but through freedom. It's the beginning of a new chapter for the Jewish people, and a new way of thinking about what God can do through those the world overlooks. There's a powerful question here for every generation. Who are the Cyruses in your world? Who is the voice, the outsider, the unexpected leader that God might use for a purpose you can't yet see? And maybe, just maybe, are you called to be that watchman, to speak the truth even when it costs you friends, comfort, or certainty? To stand on the wall, eyes open, heart ready, warning and hoping all at once? Ezekiel's story reminds us, sometimes the truth will taste sweet and turn bitter. Sometimes your forehead must be harder than stone. Sometimes hope comes from the least likely place. Ever seen a message you couldn't ignore, no matter how strange? Ezekiel's life became the message, his body, his pain, his daily routine. For the exiles by the Kibar Canal, every prophecy was about to become three-dimensional. Picture the scene. The prophet Ezekiel steps into the center of the camp. No pulpit, no scroll, just a single brick and silent resolve. He places the brick on the ground and begins to carve. It's Jerusalem, the holy city, now reduced to a child's model in the dirt. Around it, Ezekiel arranges miniature siege works, ramps, battering rams, tiny armies. Night and day the people watch, confused, amused, uneasy, time-lapse. The model city sits in the sand, gathering dust and rumors. But the drama has only begun. God commands Ezekiel to lie down, first on his left side, facing his model city. He stays there day after day, night after night. 1 day, 10 days, 50 days, 390 days in total. Each day represents a year of Israel's sin. People count the days. Some whisper, some scoff, but nobody can look away. When the days are done, Ezekiel turns to his right side. 40 more days, this time for Judah. His body aches. His skin presses against the earth. But every hour is a sermon. God remembers every year, every choice. The next act comes with food, if you can call it that. God instructs Ezekiel to bake his bread over a fire fueled by dried dung. For a priest, this is unthinkable. Leviticus is clear. Priests must remain pure, never defile themselves. Leviticus 21, 1-8. Dung is unclean, but exile is unclean, and so the prophet obeys. He pleads with God for a lesser shame and is allowed to use cow dung instead of human waste. Ezekiel 4:14-15. Still, the message stands. Soon, all of Israel will eat defiled food in foreign lands. No more temple, no more purity. Even daily bread becomes a reminder of loss. Then comes the razor. God tells Ezekiel to shave his head and beard. Another shock, another humiliation. A priest's hair is his dignity, his sign of separation. Leviticus 21:5. But Ezekiel gathers his hair and divides it. A third he burns in the fire. A third he strikes with a sword. A third he scatters to the wind. Only a few strands are tucked into his robe, a sign that a remnant will survive. Imagine these acts unfolding in slow motion, the crowd staring, some in horror, some in anger, some in a silence deeper than words. No one can claim ignorance now. This is prophecy in 3D. Why did God ask for such extremes? For exiles, ritual purity was all they had left. Every tradition, every law was a lifeline to their lost home. When Ezekiel broke those boundaries, it was a jolt. A message you could feel in your gut, not just hear in your ears. Each act, a living parable. Each pain, a warning. Each humiliation, a sign of judgment, but also a hope that God is still speaking. What can we learn from this? Sometimes words alone aren't enough to wake a sleeping soul. Sometimes you have to live the truth, even when it costs you everything. Sometimes faith means embracing discomfort to shake others from their routine. What does it look like when God leaves his own house? What happens when the presence that once filled the temple begins to move away? The scene begins with Ezekiel carried in a vision to Jerusalem. He enters the temple, not as it once was, but as it has become. Idols now stand in its courts. Elders of Israel worship secret images behind closed doors. Women mourn foreign gods. Men bow to the sun with their backs to the altar of the Lord. The place once filled with God's glory is now thick with betrayal. Then Ezekiel sees what few could imagine. The glory of the Lord, the same brilliance he saw by the river in Babylon, appears in the temple. But this time, the glory is restless. First, it rises above the cherubim, the golden angels over the ark. A hush falls. Slowly, the glory cloud drifts to the threshold, the doorway of the temple. It hesitates, as if longing for one more cry of repentance, one last chance for mercy. But the people do not turn back. The idols remain. The prayers grow cold. Sin, persistent, public, and personal, shuts the door to God's heart. The vision continues. Ezekiel watches as the glory lifts again, this time moving out across the temple courts. It pauses, then rises above the city itself. Finally, the glory departs to the Mount of Olives just east of Jerusalem. The presence that once filled the house with light now lingers outside the city, a distant memory. Jerusalem's gates close behind it. Stone walls remain, but without the glory, the temple is only a shell, a city without its heart, a people without their promise. Feel the sorrow as Ezekiel must have felt it. Hear the lament of another prophet crying over the ruins. Lamentations 2:7-9. The Lord has rejected his altar and abandoned his sanctuary. He has given the walls of her palaces into the hands of the enemy. Her gates have sunk into the ground. Their bars he has broken and destroyed. Her king and her princes are exiled among the nations. The law is no more, and her prophets find no vision from the Lord. This is the agony of loss, not just of stone and gold, but of nearness, of identity, of hope itself. Sin has a cost, and sometimes that cost is the presence of God stepping away. It's a sobering truth. God's presence is a gift, not a guarantee. When hearts are hardened and idols take root, even the holiest place can become empty. Yet Ezekiel's vision holds another lesson. Even as the glory departs, it does not disappear forever. God's sorrow is not indifference. He leaves with pain, not anger. His longing is for return, for healing, for his people to seek him again. For all of us, there's a warning here. Never take the presence of God for granted. No building, tradition, or memory can substitute for a living relationship. When our hearts grow cold, it's not the walls that matter, but whether God still walks among us. But judgment is never God's last word. Can dead hearts really beat again? Can hope rise in a place as lifeless as a desert of bones? This is the question Ezekiel faces as he stands in the middle of the valley. God's Spirit sets him down among dry bones, scattered, brittle, silent. They are not just skeletons. They are the shattered dreams and lost hopes of a whole nation. God asks, "Son of man, can these bones live?" Ezekiel 37:3. Ezekiel answers honestly, "Sovereign Lord, you alone know." But God did not leave the question hanging. He commands Ezekiel to prophesy. "Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord." As Ezekiel speaks, something happens. The ground shakes, bones rattle, they come together bone to bone, tendons, flesh, skin, life takes shape. But still there is no breath. God says, prophesy to the breath. Ezekiel calls out, and the Spirit moves. A mighty wind fills the valley, and the bodies stand, an army brought back from the dead. This is not just about Israel in exile, it's a message for anyone who's ever felt empty, hopeless, too far gone. God can bring life from the most lifeless places. He can breathe into what the world calls finished and make it begin again. Before this vision, God gave another promise through Ezekiel. He said, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Ezekiel 36:26. The people's hearts had grown hard, cold, unable to feel. But God promised a miracle, transformation from the inside out, not just new habits or better laws, but a whole new life, a heart that feels, loves, and responds. We see the echo of this miracle even in our world today. Think about the underground church in Iran. Decades of pressure, censorship, and danger, yet reports say faith is quietly, powerfully spreading. In a land known for control and fear, hearts are waking up. People gather in homes, risk prison, risk everything just to hear and share hope. Persecution, instead of killing faith, fans the flame. It's the paradox of history. When the world tries to crush hope, God often multiplies it. When religion feels stone cold, the Spirit breaks through and brings something living, real, and new. It happened in Ezekiel's valley. It's happening now in places the world least expects. But the lesson isn't just for nations or faraway lands. Revival always starts small, always starts personal. God asks, where are your dry bones? What part of your heart needs my Spirit's breath? Before communities, before churches, before nations come alive, it begins with one beating heart, a heart of flesh where there once was stone. So, can dry bones live? The answer is yes, if God breathes. Your story is not over, no matter how dry, how empty, how broken it may seem. Personal revival comes before any national awakening. If you want to see change around you, start by asking God to breathe life into you. Imagine a courtroom, but not of men, of nations. The world's most powerful cities, kings, and empires stand in the dock. Who is the judge? The God of Israel, revealed now as the King of all. Ezekiel's message is not just for Judah. He raises his voice against the great powers of his day: Tyre, Egypt, Edom, Sidon, Philistia. Their pride, violence, and betrayal have not gone unnoticed. Tyre boasts of its wealth, its trade, its unsinkable ships. Egypt leans on its old glory and vast armies. But God warns them all, no empire is immune to justice. No king is untouchable. He says, then they will know that I am the Lord. Ezekiel 28:26-30-19. This phrase echoes through each oracle, a verdict for the powerful, a comfort for the oppressed. Zoom out now to the visions of chapters 38 and 39, a mysterious prophecy. Gog, from the land of Magog, gathers nations for a final assault on God's people. Included in the alliance, Persia, an ancient name still spoken in our world today. The names shift, but the tension remains. Commentators, pastors, and even politicians debate, could Ezekiel be talking about Iran? Are these the alliances of our headlines? Persia, modern Iran, and its neighbors, the Middle East? Here's where caution is wisdom. For centuries, readers have tried to set dates and match names, looking for the timetable of the end. But the heart of Ezekiel's prophecy is not a puzzle for us to solve. It's a warning and a hope for every generation. God alone holds the future. Gog and Magog, whoever they are, whenever they rise, are not a surprise to him. What's the real lesson in these oracles of judgment? It's that no matter how empires shift or alliances change, the moral arc of the universe bends toward God's justice. Nations may rage, kings may scheme, but in the end, God is king over all. Think about our world today. Iran sits at the heart of many alliances, influencing conflicts from Iraq to Syria, from Lebanon to the Persian Gulf. Some see echoes of Ezekiel's Persia in today's headlines. But remember, prophecy is not a shortcut to predicting the news. It's a call to watch, to pray, and to trust in the judge who sees all. We are invited to hold the Bible in one hand and a spirit of humility in the other. When we see war, injustice, or pride rise up, we remember that God still sits on the throne. Ezekiel's oracles remind us God's justice is not delayed. No power can stand forever against what is right. Our hope is not in kingdoms or leaders, but in the one who judges with truth and mercy. So, as the world's alliances shift and headlines swirl, don't get lost in fear or speculation. Let these ancient words call you to wisdom, to courage, and to faith. What if you could see tomorrow's world with your own eyes? What if hope had a blueprint, drawn in detail down to the last stone and stream? Ezekiel's final vision lifts him up to a high mountain. Spread below, a city shimmers in the light. At its heart stands a temple, vast, perfect, mysterious. Imagine a drone's view. Concentric courtyards ripple outward from a holy center, every gate, every chamber measured by a shining angel with a golden rod. Walls rise in flawless symmetry, order, beauty, and peace. God's presence rebuilt from ruins. But this temple is more than stone. Ezekiel's guide leads him from the outer courts to the inner sanctuary. Every step draws him closer to glory. It's a journey through layers of holiness, an invitation to come near, to draw close, to be changed. Then, a new wonder. Water begins to trickle from beneath the threshold, flowing eastward. It grows, ankle deep, knee deep, waist deep, until it becomes a river no one can cross. Ezekiel wades in, the current lifting him. The river rushes toward the desert, down to the Dead Sea. Wherever it goes, life explodes. Trees bear fruit year-round, leaves heal, fish swarm in water once toxic and dead. Picture the Dead Sea, now a living Eden. It's a vision of reversal, of restoration, of the world remade. What does it mean? People have wondered for centuries. Some see in these blueprints a prophecy of a literal third temple, still to come, rising one day in Jerusalem. Others glimpse the age of the Messiah, a future kingdom of justice and peace on earth. And many, from the early church onward, see something even deeper, a picture of the Spirit's work. The church as God's living temple, our hearts as the new holy place. Paul writes, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" 1 Corinthians 6:19. What began as architecture becomes living reality. God moves in, not just to buildings, but to people. You, me, anyone made new by His Spirit. The river then is more than water. It's the Spirit, flowing out from the place of God's presence. It brings life to the driest places, hope to the hardest hearts. It turns deserts to gardens, curses to blessing, endings to beginnings. This vision echoes forward to the very last pages of the Bible. John sees a new Jerusalem coming down from heaven. No temple, because God Himself is the light. A river runs through that city too, watering the tree of life, whose leaves heal the nations. Revelation 21-22. What do we take from Ezekiel's blueprint? God is a builder who never stops restoring. His hope always finds a way forward, even when we see only ruin. His Spirit can fill any heart, any community, any corner of the world, and bring it back to life. So, as you picture this temple and river, ask yourself, what's one desert in your life where you long to see living water flow? What's one broken thing you're trusting God to restore? Why does Ezekiel still land in our inbox, our lives, after all these centuries? How can an exile's visions still cut to the core of who we are and who we might become? Ezekiel's message was never just for ancient Israel. It was and is for anyone searching for justice, mercy, and a future. One of his most powerful revelations comes in Ezekiel chapter 18. Here, God says, "The soul who sins shall die." Each person stands accountable. No more blaming parents or the past. No hiding behind tradition, tribe, or fate. You can break the cycle. You can change your story. You are responsible for your choices and your hope. Let that truth sink in. God treats you as a person, not a statistic. Individual dignity and moral responsibility. Centuries ahead of its time. Still a message the world needs today. But Ezekiel isn't just about judgment. He's the prophet who dared to call God the Good Shepherd. In chapter 34, he delivers a message as warm as sunlight after winter. "I myself will search for my sheep and look after them." God promises to gather the lost, bind the injured, and strengthen the weak. He will judge the abusive leaders, the shepherds who fed themselves and left the flock to scatter. He will raise up one shepherd from the line of David, a prophecy that echoes all the way to Jesus. Centuries later, in the hills of Galilee, Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd." The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. John 10:11. He reaches back to Ezekiel's hope, making it flesh and blood, turning prophecy into living rescue. And Ezekiel's images don't just echo in sermons. They ring out in art, music, and culture. Picture a slideshow of Marc Chagall's luminous paintings, blue, gold, and fire. Jerusalem's walls, the face of a weeping prophet, the wheel within a wheel. Overlay it with the pulse of an African-American spiritual. Dem bones, dem bones, dem dry bones. In the fields of the American South, enslaved people sang Ezekiel's words, turning sorrow into rhythm, despair into hope. Even today, musicians and poets sample the language of resurrection, new hearts, and valleys reborn. If you're writing, editing, or producing this story for a new generation, pause sometimes for still images, Chagall's wild colors, photos of street art, faces in prayer. Let the beat of dry bones and modern gospel tracks rise beneath Ezekiel's promises. Remind your audience, this is not a relic, it's a living script. What is the lesson for us? Ezekiel insists that God sees every heart. Your choices matter, but you are never alone. There's a shepherd searching for you, a breath of life ready to revive your bones. His legacy is a lens, a way to see ourselves, our communities, and our world with fresh hope and sober truth. Ezekiel challenges us. What story will you write with your days? What music will your soul sing when hope seems lost? From exile's heartbreak to the glory returning, Ezekiel's story reminds us God is never still. He moves where we least expect. He warns when we most need it. He revives what looks beyond hope, and in the end, He chooses to dwell with us. So where do you find yourself tonight? Are you stuck in exile, feeling far from home? Are you the watchman, carrying a heavy truth for your world? Do you feel like dry bones in a forgotten valley? Or are you already wading into the river of life? Remember, every stage is a part of the journey. God meets you where you are, and He's never done writing your story. If Ezekiel just came alive for you, hit like so we know this message matters. Which vision hit you hardest? Wheels and glory, the valley, the temple, Drop a comment below. I want to hear your story. And don't forget, subscribe and ring the bell, because next time we'll dive into Daniel's 4 beasts and connect prophecy to today's wildest headlines. No matter where you stand, let this echo stay with you. The God who moved in exile still moves, still warns, still revives, and still promises, I will be with you